My proposed thesis deals with the phenomenon of recovery of Johnny Famechon, and it's a discourse of resilience and brain plasticity. That's what it is in a nutshell. Johnny Famechon, one of the most loved fighters and athletes in Australia. He's a former featherweight champion of the world, and also he's now been accorded to the World Boxing Hall of Fame, and he's also been accorded an Australian boxing legend. Johnny Famechon, featherweight champion of the world and champion Australian as well. Look, Johnny had an accident where he was hit by a car in August 1991 in Sydney, and the car was calculated travelling at 100 kilometres an hour, and John was a pedestrian crossing a road, and unfortunately the situation arose where John was hit by that car, and he received horrific injuries overall in relation to that, and he was in a coma for about 3 weeks, and he also had a stroke while he was in a coma, and that resulted in significant brain damage, which is now called acquired brain injury. The situation is there. I, in fact, used to work with a friend of his, Frank Quill, a sports writer, and I met him in the streets of Melbourne in 1993, and we spoke about Johnny, of course, and I said that I've got some ideas in relation to brain rehabilitation. I wasn't too sure in what direction I was going to go. There was an open idea that I had in mind that movement would assist in brain recovery, and I put that to Frank, and Frank thought that my ideas had a merit, and then he gave me John and Glennis's phone number. I spoke with Glennis on the phone. That led to a meeting with John and Glennis, and that opened the door in relation to having John engage in this new and novel therapy. The therapy is in fact based simply upon what John can do, and I focus only on what he can do. So I'll look at his potential all the time. I'll ask him to move one hand, one leg, other leg, then I'll ask him to move a number of limbs, and I'm continually extending him where he might be doing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 different movements in a variety of patterns, with a view to stimulating the brain, with a view to hopefully creating new neurological connections, which hopefully will lead to greater cognitive potential, greater thinking potential, as well as greater movement potential, and that's what in fact has happened. Yes, I started karate in 1970, and I'm still practicing. It's a form of karate called Goju karate, and that to me is very important to notify that it is Goju karate that I've been involved in, and I've been practicing that, and I'm still doing it some 43 years later, and that led me to also undertaking night studies. I went back and did my HSC certificate at night school, and that led me to then moving on to tertiary studies, which found me doing physical education, psychology. I now have three masters, one in guidance and counselling, one in leadership and management, one in education. I have 2 graduate diplomas in sports science, graduate diploma in health counselling, one in education, graduate certificate in communication studies, and now I'm looking at undertaking studies at the PhD level in relation to this proposal of acquired brain injury rehabilitation, focusing on the great Johnny Famechon. I got to speaking with one of the Central Queensland University people who are promoting Central Queensland University, and she was interested in my classroom behaviour management program, and that she said, the person that you need to speak with, who's well known in that field, is Ken Purnell, and I then contacted. She gave me the number, and I contacted Central Queensland University. I spoke with Ken about responsibility theory that I had in mind, a new theory that of classroom behaviour management. I'm in the process of having that published, so I'm in the throes of having that taken place, and Ken and I were speaking about that, looking at doing a PhD study in classroom behaviour management and personal behaviour management, and when I was at the Mind and its Potential conference with John and Glennis Famechon there, Ken came up to me again and said, look, I think that we can look at you doing a study in the field of acquired brain injury rehabilitation. So that's how that meeting with Ken came about. What I'm hoping for in relation to this, that this will lead to possibly new therapies. I mean, there are other therapies that have taken place, and I'm hoping to add to this, contribute to the field of knowledge in the field of acquired brain injury rehabilitation that hopefully will lead to and open up potential for those who have received an acquired brain injury rehabilitation. So I'm looking to achieve something that will have benefit throughout the world in some capacity.